2020. The Nigerian police, especially in Lagos, had to surmount a major challenge against its mandate of crime fighting when suspected hoodlums jumped on the NSAS protest to cause mayhem. Their targets were primarily police personnel and their formations. The aftermath was the destruction of several public police stations and hunting of these crime fighters who were forced to avoid troubled terrains. Thus, law-abiding citizens became vulnerable to outlaws and a surge in crime prevailed. Almost 3 months after that infamous incident that lasted days, what is the current security situation in Lagos and its environs? Has the police force been able to pick off the pieces, given that most of its personnel have returned to their duty post? What about the formations that were attacked? These are issues of concern on Panorama Today, coming to you from the Lagos Network Center. I am Dotun Ogunyemi. Thanks for joining us. And now let's begin. After a 2-day lull in the ongoing registration for National Identification Number, the exercise has recommenced with centers across Lagos State recording a surge in the number of applicants. Taiwo Adeniyi reports that anxious applicants are calling for the establishment of more centers to address gaps in the registration process ahead of February 9 deadline for phone number NIN synchronization.
This is the Alausa office of the National Identity Management Commission, NIMC. It is a busy day for officials of the Commission as security agents here and other centers across the state where anxious applicants wait on long queues for their turn in the registration process.
He did my online, so I printed a form out. So they asked me to bring it to Alausa here. I spoke to one of the officials and showed them. One of them told me it does not matter. I have to redo it again. People come here as far from Ikorodu.
And you talk to a few people, they're telling you different stories. The organizers of the program are not communicating with anybody.
Apart from having to travel long distances to some of the enrollment centers, some of the applicants also alleged form racketeering by touts who they said were exploiting the situation to make money. Describing NIN as an important document, Teko Benson, a well-known figure in the Nigerian movie industry, who was at the Igwe office of the Commission to register his children, called for the establishment of more centers to fast-track the registration process in the state.
You can imagine the population of Lagos, and you have just this one center for the whole of this area, and one center. You know, Abuja, how big it is. We don't have just these 2 centers to cater for that kind of population.
Apart from its 50 office centers spread across the state, the Commission says it has activated its licensed agents to commence enrollment as well as biometric data capturing of Lagos residents.
Some of them have started. I know that a lot of telcos, they are also licensed agents. In the next couple of days, you will see more of their presence in Lagos State.
Okwesowo, however, want Nigerians to avoid any form of incomplete NIN registration, especially those purportedly done by harmonizing bank verification number.
A NIN has been allocated to the BVN. So if such BVN holders dial *346, they will get a NIN. But the NIN becomes active when they come to our enrollment center to complete the data, the biometrics capturing.
Aside the much publicized government directives on phone numbers and NIN synchronization, submission of NIN has now become mandatory for vehicle registration. In Lagos, Adeniyi Taiwo, NTA News.
On the way from that now, the contribution of the maritime subsector to a challenging year was majorly in the area of constant shipment of food and drugs at a period COVID-19 threatened the existence of man. The positivity from this daunting challenge is that the industry is evolving strategies for digitization on port operations in 2021 and beyond. Correspondent has a review and prospect of the maritime sector.
The Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA, projected a 10% growth rate for the industry between 2019 and 2020, with vessel fleet expected to grow by 8.75%. No soothsayer or forecast gave a second thought that an unseen enemy in form of coronavirus will stretch global economy to its begging knees. With hope of survival glaringly looking slim, the federal government exempted port operations from the lockdown in order to ensure constant supply of food, while waivers were activated on demurrage and storage fees for an initial 21 days.
Because we know how important it is for the economy to continue to move forward.
The implication, therefore, is that while cargoes were coming into the country, few were leaving, thereby leading to congestion and 80% yard occupancy.
Technology is the solution, okay? The port operations, like any other sector, must be moved by technology. We don't want people coming here. We want goods to be moved out, without anybody physically coming here.
Regardless of these challenges, the foundation for ease of doing business at the ports was built in 2020 with the projection that investors might save up to 30% operational costs.
We have several initiatives, and those initiatives need to be shared amongst ourselves for us to have improved operational opportunities within the maritime industries.
There is also a concerted effort at increasing indigenous shipping, flying the Nigerian flag through the cabotage financing scheme.
Even when international ships are under the Nigerian ship registry, they will give preference to Nigerian seafarers. So there's a direct relationship between the size of our tonnage and the opportunities for seafarers.
The maritime sector has demonstrated the resilience to survive regardless of challenges. And once the Deep Blue project is fully operational, the criminality threatening investments in the Gulf of Guinea will be a thing of the past. In Lagos, Michael Olale, NT News.
And now talking financial prospects, analysts are confident that the first quarter of year 2021, as it kicks off, the Nigerian stock market will sustain its leading title as the best performing stock in 2020. Amaka O sought the views of experts and our report.
Despite the economic shocks experienced due to COVID-19 pandemic, plunge in global oil prices, and economic recession experienced in the previous year, the Nigerian stock market came out strong, emerging number one among over 93 equities markets across the globe, as released by Bloomberg. Reports also say investors were said to have gained over 7 trillion naira by the end of 2020.
A lot of the OMO investments and even a lot of the Treasury bills investments that occurred in 2019 were maturing in 2020. And as we were maturing in 2020, you had an influx of naira into the economy, and that basically started bringing down interest rates. Our stock market at that point had stocks that potentially could give you dividend yields of 14-15%.
These experts also bear the minds on expectations for 2021.
Operators are going to be playing by the rules, ensure that the efficiency, transparency, and fairness of the market is maintained. We are going to see more of IPOs coming to the market.
We expect nothing less than a good dividend payout for this first quarter. And with that, we know that investors, savvy investors, risk takers will want to come and queue in for this dividend, because that is what can actually give them a better return ahead of fixed income instrument.
According to the Nigerian Stock Exchange website, there are over 161 listed companies on the exchange, with increase in local investor participation, which contributed to its successes. Experts urge more companies to get listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. In Lagos, Amaka O, NT News.
Coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
Many thanks for staying, and let's now talk about the COVID-19 pandemic. The third stream of National Youth Corps members will resume orientation camp on the 18th January 2021 with COVID-19 testing and protocols in place. But school resumption date may be reviewed by the Federal Ministry of Education as COVID-19 cases continue to rise in the country. The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 stated this at Monday's briefing in Abuja. Mitari Ikben reports.
Throughout the budgetary process and also to 100,000 infections have been recorded with a case fatality rate of 1.36%. The PTF advises Nigerians to avoid super spreader events as new and deadly strains of the virus are suspected to be in circulation.
Avoid crowding, as we see in people under the guise of national identity number enrollment. There is absolutely no cause for this. If only people would voluntarily comply with advisories and guidelines.
If you are above the age of 60, if you have diabetes, if you have other comorbidities, now is the time to keep away from mass gatherings if you fall within this group.
There is no state in Nigeria that is immune to this pandemic, even if reports are not coming out of such states.
Ahead of school resumption,
January 18th, we are reviewing it. We are going to review it. When we decided on that date, it was just a target towards which we were working. And of course, we are keeping it in view and looking at what is happening in the society.
As a matter of fact, we have done some kind of decontamination and disinfection on, I think, 2 or 3 universities on request at the time. So we do have the plan to do that. All we are waiting for is to just know when, all this thing will be settled and the schools will reopen, because the timing for decontamination and disinfection is critical.
The PTF is projecting to vaccinate 70% of Nigeria's population within 2 years.
20% out of the 70% of the vaccines will be given free of charge to Nigerians. So it's the balance of the 50% that Nigeria will be paying for. For example, the Pfizer vaccine in the open market cost about $35 US per dose. The Moderna vaccine is about $20 US per dose.
To ramp up testing for COVID-19, rapid diagnostic test kits will be rolled out nationwide in February. In Abuja, Mitaire Ikben, NTA News.
Meanwhile, latest figures from the Nigeria Center for Disease Control indicates that 1,244 new cases of the coronavirus have been confirmed as at the 11th of January 2021, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 101,331. The cases were recorded in 18 states of the Federation, including the FCT. Lagos recorded the daily highest of 774 cases, followed by the FCT with 125, Plateau 102, Anambra 47, Ondo 46, Rivers 27, Edo 18, Kaduna, Ogun, and Gombe had 16 cases each, while Bauchi and Kano had 11 cases each. Nasarawa 10, Akwa Ibom 7, Sokoto 7, Borno 5, Ekiti 4, and Zamfara 2. Total number of those discharged is 80,491, while 1,361 deaths have been recorded across the country. One of the most populous cities in Nigeria, housing more than 22 million citizens, Lagos has over the years faced several security challenges, with the most recent an aftermath of the EndSARS protest. The lead security agency, the Nigerian Police Force, have been dealing with the fallout of things as things gradually return to normal. Imolayo Togede reports.
The recent youth unrest across the country gave room for hoodlums to take advantage of residents and commuters due to the near absence of police officers at strategic points around the city. The roads became unsafe, especially at night and in the early mornings, with citizens looking over their shoulder while in public. The story is quite different now, with the presence of police officers on the roads, manning checkpoints and conducting traffic. How do residents feel about this new development?
I just once in a while see their vehicle around, patrol, unlike we used to see them back then, at their junctions, their normal spots.
To move around without police, I'm not safe.
I don't have peace of mind because those policemen on the streets now don't have guns. And if anything is to happen, they won't be effective.
The Assistant Inspector General of Police, Zone 2 Command, Ahmed Iliasu, stated that the force has adopted a community policing strategy which enables them to develop the needed public trust in order to effectively fight crime and criminality in Lagos and Ogun states.
Now the police is ever more responsive in terms of response to distress calls, distress areas. We have various other sister organizations that we are working hand in hand with. So many intelligence-led policing devices, technical devices have been ignited now. We have tactical units that are highly responsive now, like the Rapid Response Squad as far as Lagos is concerned.
The AIG further stated that the force has collaborated with other stakeholders in rebuilding its destroyed formations.
Some structures to encourage our men to go back and provide quick and responsive short-time responses to issues. And you have the medium time and you have the long time. But in the short time, interim structures have been put in place and our men are fully back in carrying out their duties.
It further revealed that the force has recovered most of the stolen items and arms carted away from police stations by hoodlums during the protests. It stated that the morale of men is very high as they continue to work harder to make the country safe for all. In Lagos, Imolayo Tokide, NTA News.
And here to talk about the security situation in Lagos 3 months after the EndSARS aftermath is a security expert, Roy Ohi Devie. Many thanks for joining us on Panorama.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure.
All right, now my very first question is, you watched that report and heard the AIG. However, how would you assess the current security situation in Lagos in connection with what happened after the EndSARS protest?
Okay, thank you very much. You see, the police are always at a disadvantaged position. If you look at what the AIG is saying, he's actually trying to narrate their capacity built up as against their morale to be able to contend with issues presently. But if you have an issue and you try to process it through police attention, police response, that is the time you will see the great gap that has been built and is sustained right now between the police and the people. There is a major role that should be played by the police in response and giving that confidence of my security. The ability to deliver that is at a pause right now, because if you have an issue, then you will see that there is that gap.
Now, from the citizens' perspective, how can they stay safe? Because as we know it, officers and men cannot be, they're not very physically present.
You know, I used to tell people, I said, I speak to companies, organizations, schools, and I used to tell them, I said, how were we protecting ourselves before the policing system that we have today? You know, so definitely the society has a major role to play. The society itself must build up cohesiveness. The society itself must exchange information. They must have platforms like WhatsApp group, any other kind of group, Google groups, that you can exchange information to escalate any insecurity observation. You know, you see something, you say something, and they must have an action point responsibility, maybe an ESCO. You know, I used to tell people, I say every religious center should have an ESCO. The mosque, a church, wherever, a community, a school. I talked to PTA groups. I said you should have an ESCO for security, and it should be made up of parents that have security influence, that are in security practice or work in security agencies, government security agencies. So when you make up all those kind of bodies, they have the capacity to really activate police reaction. Once there is an insecurity situation, they have the capacity to also review growing insecurity dynamics and begin to plug all those edges before it actually gets into an attack. So those are major things that we should know. Communities, schools, estates must develop committees that are populated with people with security experience, security agency practice, so that they can communicate with serving personnel to be able to plug the insecurity situation.
And what is the role of vigilantes at this point in time to assist the police in doing their duty?
Well, that has been a challenge, okay? Because recall that vigilante groups grew out of inadequate policing systems. The area boys starts to do something, and some of them joins with the community head. They are recognized. They become the head of security in the area. Vis-a-vis, they are also part of the area boys and the hoodlums in the area, until you began to give them name, Vigilante Group of Nigeria. So they start to recruit certain persons that want to fight insecurity in that area. But then, simultaneously, we have running pari passu, the Ministry of Interior, the Civil Defense Corps, approving licenses for private security practitioners to also support policing, provide security for people's assets and all that. So where the enabling law now lies is how to marry the relationship, how to really organize the operation. Because right now, certain vigilante groups and bodies that claim to own security in areas, they carry arms. And since they carry arms, is that not a violation of government law when the licensed private security practitioners don't carry arms? So it is becoming a kind of diatribe of understanding where this lacuna still exists.
Now, when do you predict we can have a proper crime-fighting network back in place?
Well, we should have it now. For Lagos, for an example, Lagos is one of the best security model in the country. Lagos have tried its best to accommodate all views. They usually have town hall meetings for security practitioners. I have attended. You know, they have a donation fundraising system where people contribute to help populate logistics for the security agencies like the police, the army that respond. I have also done that too through my bodies, the Association of Licensed Private Security Personnel. They participate in it. But let me say this. The security system in Lagos is provided towards the providers, the blue chip companies, the high-rise buildings, the people that actually contribute to provide security. And the insecurity situation arises from the neglect of where the street urchins are, the never-do-wells, those that can't feed themselves, don't have accommodation, and all of those catchments. So you are providing security for providers, and you are leaving those spaces unprotected, unsecured, unpoliced, and insecurity capacity is growing in all of those areas. In Lagos now, you have buildings where we have discovered that there are kidnap dens in all of those places. We have buildings now where they are abandoned. We have stale and old buildings that are unoccupied by reasonable persons. You know, so we have a lot of system that is not functional to keep security. So we become reactive. So it's when a call comes in that we react.
All right, just quickly, what is the role of community policing in all this, just to round up?
The role of community policing actually is not what we are looking at right now. There is a book written by Mr. Arase, one of the former IG. Some people need to read that book. Okay, see, the community policing system, it's supposed to identify areas where insecurity can escalate. Okay. Maybe you see something going on, you know that it can lead to insecurity, and then you begin to plug it. Okay. Not when you hear there's a robbery going on and you start calling for police to come in. So community policing is the community and the policing liaising and forming a good rapport to attack insecurity situations.
Thank you so much, Roy Ohideve, for your insights. Now, let's move on to sports updates, where Nigerian Football Federation adjusts activities for year 2021. Details of this and more.